A wise man once said, "You'll never go broke overestimating the gullibility of the American public." I think he wrote for the Inquirer. We're here today in the park asking people's opinions on stories that we've completely made up. Our first question was, how would you react to people wanting to colorize Gone with the Wind, the Errol Flynn classic? Been in the news quite a bit lately, the colorizing of classic movies. Specifically, Ted Turner is planning to colorize the Errol Flynn classic, Gone with the Wind, and we wanted to find out your opinions on colorizing of movies, and that one is particular because the director, David Lynch, is opposed to having his film colorized.
I think they should just have it as it is, just have it black and white, because it's an old classic, and that's part of the classics, and it might be ruined if they put it into color. It might not be as old and as classic.
All right. As Ted Turner is attempting to colorize the Errol Flynn classic, Gone with the Wind, the director of the movie, David Lynch, is talking about actually filing a lawsuit to stop it. What's your opinion on that topic?
Well, I don't think they should be colorized for the simple reason, the fact that they are classics. Part of the reason they are classics is the fact that they are black and white.
On that.
I think they shouldn't colorize the films. They should keep them black and white the way they originally produced, because the original feel of the movie is the way that it was originally filmed, so it should stay that way.
David Lynch, the original director, is saying that if you want a colorized version, he'll film it. He's even picked out Vivian Leigh as one of the people to star in the new version. Do you think that's a better solution?
No, I think you should keep to the whole. I don't think you should do it at all, but I suppose if they're going to, you could do both, and then whoever appreciates black and white can watch that, and whoever appreciates colorized can watch that as well.
I like them the way they were.
You would have no interest in seeing a color version of Gone with the Wind?
No.
Okay. What would you think if someone told you that one of our Great Lakes would be even greater if you moved it to Nebraska? We're asking people's opinion about an article that came out today in Scientific America, where it is recommended that to aid farmers in the Midwest, they actually relocate one of the Great Lakes, move it further south, closer to Nebraska, and we're asking people's opinion on a move such as that.
Geographically, I think it's a bad idea, to tell you the truth.
I think it's a very good idea. We're going to need this water. The water tables are falling from the aquifers in the country, and I think the increase in population, we're going to have to raise more. We can't raise more without the water. And a few years ago, one of the Great Lakes was higher than normal, and that water can be easily, I think, pumped up to where it can be used. I hope they put it in Texas, because we really need it.
Now, if they were to actually transport and relocate one of the Great Lakes, which lake do you think would be the proper choice?
I suppose Lake Michigan, because it's the nearest to where they want to put the water, to the midsection of the country.
And I would choose one far away from me, which would be perhaps Lake Erie.
Lake Superior being so big and being so far north would probably be, they could spare that one the most, but I don't really know for sure.
With one of the smaller ones, Lake Huron or maybe even Lake Ontario.
I imagine they would move with Lake Michigan, but I don't believe that Canada would like that at all.
What if we had proof that Benedict Arnold was framed and George Washington was actually a traitor? Here's what the people said. There's a new group that says that they have absolute evidence that Benedict Arnold from the Revolutionary War was not a traitor, was in fact framed, and they are claiming that it was George Washington, our first president, was involved in a cover-up to frame Benedict Arnold. Do you think there might be any truth to that?
No, I think it's a publicity act to get some people aroused.
Now, when you heard about this controversy, what was your first reaction to it?
I think they're carrying it way too far, and I think it's ridiculous to bring something up like that now.
Yeah. Apparently, this group says that they have evidence. They have George Washington's signature on a paper. They have some sort of a recording that shows that he was involved, and even Ben Franklin, the statesman of the time, was involved in the cover-up. A guy who, invented so many things. The pot-bellied stove, and revolutionized the baked potato, and bifocals and everything else. Can you imagine that there might have been some sort of illegal activity by Ben Franklin and some sort of collusion on his part?
Well, there could have been, but that's the past. It isn't irrelevant now. It's not going to serve any purpose bringing it out now. So I think it's better left the way it is.
What did you think when you first heard that, and what kind of credence do you give to these accusations?
Really, I haven't heard too many details on that, but I would find it very hard to believe.
The other shocking accusation is that Ben Franklin, the great statesman of the time, was also involved in this cover-up. And when you think of a man who was involved in so many great inventions, he invented the bifocals and the potbelly stove, revolutionized baked potatoes, everything you can possibly think of, that he would be involved in something nefarious as this. Does that surprise you, or do you find that completely incredible?
Oh, yes, I would. Ben Franklin, to me, is maybe the greatest man in that period.
Do you think that there's any credence to that, or there might possibly be any truth to that?
Well, there could be, because you figure coming down 200 years, as stories spread, they pick up more ammunition and they just kind of roll and snowball. And I mean, who knows? It could very well be true that it was all a fabrication.
Would you put any faith in that kind of an accusation?
Depending on the documentation they have. If they just come and say, well, we found a letter that said he was framed, or however they're going to document it. I mean, if you just have somebody bring a personalized letter from somewhere saying that he wasn't a traitor or was a traitor, then I don't know how substantial that is. But
apparently the proof that they have is an actual document that's been signed by a lot of the luminaries of the time who would have been involved in this cover-up. They're saying that they have the signature on this one document of George Washington and Ben Franklin, Chester A. Arthur, Thomas Edison, just all the bigwigs, Thomas Paine. If you actually had a document and they had valid signatures, would that change your opinion of our presidents and luminaries of that era?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's all past history. There's not much you can do right now. The opinions I have about our presidents and people from that time frame are all pretty much set in my mind, and they're not going to change.
Or do you think there might be some truth to that?
There could always be some truth to that. You never know. I mean, I didn't know him personally. It was a little before my time, but we can't tell how he was or anything like that, so we don't know.
Would it surprise you to find out that all those years ago there was that kind of skullduggery?
Not at all. It's happening now. Why not then?
Okay. We all know how America spells cheese, but how would people feel if $500,000 of their money was spent to build a sculpture of it? We're also talking to people about art and the funding of art. Are you, in general, in favor of public funding of art?
No.
Okay, specifically, they're talking about putting a sculpture here in the park. The State Board for the Funding of Humanities and the Arts has budgeted $500,000 to put in a sculpture in the park. In theory, do you think that's a good or a bad idea?
I think it's a good idea.
Would you go see a big sculpture that celebrates America?
Yeah, if I was here, I'd go see it.
Okay, apparently the artist that they've chosen for this is from Europe, and his celebration of America idea, they've already given him $500,000. He's building a sculpture that celebrates cheese. And, you might expect that in Wisconsin, but not here. How do you feel about that? Is that art? Is a sculpture about cheese art?
Yeah, I believe it is. It's a matter of opinion of the artist, I guess.
And would you yourself, when you think of America, would cheese ever come to mind?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you yourself go see the cheese sculpture?
Yeah, I'd see it.
What kind of cheese do you think would be appropriate in a celebration of America?
Well, you got me. I don't know.
Well, it's his opinion. If he wants to make the cheese sculpture, I'm all for it. It's his art. He sees it his way. Other people see it their way.
And when you yourself think of cheese, do you think of America?
No.
Would you yourself go out of your way to see a cheese sculpture?
No, if I wanted to see something relating cheese, I'd go to Disneyland or something.
Sure, the big cheese world. Now, I guess the deal is, in order to make it a celebration of America, his sculpture is going to be of a slice of American cheese, like an individually wrapped slice. And people are saying that that's not even art. That's just a big sheet of metal that he's saying is a piece of cheese, and they're paying him $500,000. How would you respond to that?
Well, if it's American cheese, I'm all for it then, you know?
Are you in favor, in general, with sculpture in city parks?
Not at all. I think it adds to the scenery.
And the artist that they've chosen to do this, that they've paid the $500,000 to, says that his sculpture is going to be America the Cheese. And it's going to be a huge sculpture of America, so it looks like it's made out of cheese. And people are upset, saying that that's not America, and they shouldn't have given him the money, and they're upset. Do you think that's art, or do you think they should just leave him alone, or what?
I think that's kind of degrading. I mean, why not have a little bit of respect?
When you think of America, do you ever think of cheese?
Not at all, never.
What do you think of when you think of cheese?
Sandwiches. That's what I...
We're in the park talking with people about the latest arts funding scandal. I'm speaking with Caesar. Caesar, are you a person who enjoys art?
Yeah, to some points.
Do you visit art museums or ever go to art shows?
Only for schoolwork, that's all.
He's going to do a huge 7-story high sculpture of cheese and place it here in the park. It's going to cost $500,000. And what would you feel about that?
Well, if the guy sees it as art, I guess, you know, it's worth it. You know, if they hired him, I guess his ideas are worth it then.
When you think of America, do you think of cheese?
No, not in particular, but they hired the guy, so he's worth for doing the job, I guess.
Now, if you were to think of cheese as an American piece of art, what kind of cheese would you think of?
American cheese, I guess.
Some people say that isn't art. How would you respond to that?
Well, everybody has their own opinion, you know. Maybe some people will say it's art, some others will say no. But, you know, like I said before, if they hired him for the job, so let him do what he thinks is art, you know.
Now, how about you personally, Caesar? If you saw a big statue of cheese, would you find that interesting or impressive, or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'd probably just look at it and walk away from it. I mean, not knowing what the purpose of it was. But, you know, it's art.
But you do think it's art?
Yeah, if the guy thinks it's art, yeah, it should be art.
But you aren't sure whether you would like it or not?
Well, no, I'm not. No.
So basically, you don't know what you like, but you know art.
Right, right.
We've all heard our share of royal scandals, but what if the Princess of Wales was having an affair with a president who's been dead for years? A little bit of gossip. I think you've probably been aware lately. It seems every day there's some new revelation about the royal couple in Great Britain, and the latest thing that came out in the London Times this morning is an accusation that Princess Diana, for 4 years now, has been having an affair with fashion mogul Calvin Coolidge, and we were wondering, what do Americans think of this? Do you care? Are you interested in what's happening over there?
Well, I think basically it's an invasion of the privacy. Just because they're public figures doesn't really give the press, you know, the magazines and stuff, the right to totally infringe on their privacy. And the way I look at it is they're human and they may have problems, and what they are is really nobody's business.
Of course, Calvin Coolidge for years was kind of linked with Elizabeth Taylor, and I don't know, how about the whole topic of gossip? Do you find it interesting? I mean, do you read it? Do you follow it at all?
I used to, but then I tried putting myself in those people's place, and I really wouldn't like anyone saying things about me. And like I said there again, just because they're famous or have a lot of money still doesn't give the people the right to know everything about their personal lives.
An accusation that Princess Diana has been carrying out a long-standing affair with American Calvin Coolidge. We're asking people how they feel this story is being played out, and is it something that you're concerned about?
Not really. I think their private life is their private life. That's happening over in England. This is the United States. I think we should worry more about the United States than England or the royal family.
Does it bother you at all that it's an American politician that's involved allegedly in this affair?
Politicians do what they want, and it shouldn't be right, but who are we to judge someone else?
I really don't think it's anybody's business except themselves.
Does it bother you that an American like Calvin Coolidge is involved with the royal family? Does that make it of any interest to Americans, do you think?
It might make its interest to some, but it doesn't to me. I mean, to each its own, and I don't see any point. It doesn't interest me.
Does it bother you at all that that it's an American politician that she's supposedly involved with?
He needs loving too, doesn't he?
All right. She's been having an affair with clothing tycoon Calvin Coolidge, and we're wondering, as an American, do you care about what happens with the royal couple?
Not really. I mean, I'm more concerned with what's going on with our, like, presidents and type stuff like that. I'm not really paying that much attention to the royalty in England.
So you'd be more concerned if like, one of our presidents were screwing up and doing something wrong?
Right, but it still wouldn't necessarily bother me that much.
But it doesn't bother you? You don't care that Calvin Coolidge is having an affair or who's having an affair with Princess Diana?
No, that's really none of my business. It's, that's her life. Whatever she's going to do, that's fine with her.
We're all familiar with the war between the states, but what if it was being fought today between two states over a border that doesn't even exist? We're in the park today getting people's opinions about the border dispute. I suppose you may have heard recently that North Dakota is all up in arms about their border dispute with the state of California over land rights. They're saying that when the territory was first mapped out, the 50 miles too far west was given to California, and they're actually threatening to secede from the Union or to declare themselves an independent state, and we're just asking people how they feel about that.
I think they're right. California, if they wanted it, they should have taken it a long time ago.
Okay, but some people are saying that North Dakotans are a bunch of ne'er-do-wells to begin with. They've always been argumentative. You'll probably remember about 6 years ago, they had the same sort of argument about their eastern border with South Dakota and about whether Mount Rushmore should be part of North or South Dakota. In light of that, do you still think that maybe North Dakota might have a legitimate claim?
No, there I don't.
Okay, so, but you think possibly with the California border they might have something to go on?
Yes.
How would you respond to people who say, go ahead and let them go, we don't need North Dakota?
Well, I'm not really sure about that. I mean, they want to let them go, I guess, but I'm not really too sure about that,
Would you personally miss North Dakota if they're actually talking about becoming part of France? We'd have a state that's part of France in the United States, but would you feel any personal loss if we didn't have North Dakota anymore?
Oh, sure. I mean, supposedly they are 50 states and everything, so a loss of that would, pretty much change things.
When you think of North Dakota, what's the one thing that most comes to mind?
I'm not really too familiar with North Dakota.
We're wondering what your opinion is on the California-North Dakota situation.
Well, I think that should probably just stay the way it is. That's the way it's been for, a few years there, and I think it should just stay that way. I guess that's kind of why they're having the same type of problem over there in Yugoslavia. People want to leave and change names and stuff, and it should kind of just stay the way it is.
Right. Apparently, it's the North Dakotans are the ones that are upset, and they've been arguing for years over their western or eastern border with the other Dakotas, and so you don't think if they should put a bill forward to secede from the nation, you think that they should be stopped from doing that, or do you think anything would come of it?
Yeah, I think they should just be stopped doing it and keep it like it is, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it's been.
Between Vermont and Washington, have you visited either state?
No.
Apparently they're saying that some sort of a border dispute and water rights, and Washington State is actually saying that if this isn't settled, they'll secede from the Union, and they want to get it settled. What would be your opinion on that?
Well, I don't. Surely there's some way they can settle it,
Yeah, it's the fact that the river that separates the two states has moved over the years. That's where this dispute comes from. Do you think they should work it out themselves, or is it something that the Congress should settle?
Well, the Congress will have to settle it, They're the governing body, aren't they?
I guess the only thing swaying in Washington State's favor is their other neighbor, North Dakota, is supporting Washington, and of course they're along the same riverbank. So some people are saying that shouldn't come into effect. It should just be between the two states involved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there ought to be a middleman in there.
Okay. So Vermont is now saying that land that's now on the other side of the river should be theirs because the border was the river before, and Washington is saying, no, that's our land, it's always been our land, and you can't have it. Which side would you take on that issue?
Well, since the border was the river, it still should be the river no matter who's got the more land. I mean...
What if the river were to continue to move, and it turns out that eventually the whole state of Washington is no longer bordered by that river and they lose the whole state? Would that be fair?
Not exactly, no. They should kind of split it in half.
Well, Washington, of course, you'll remember about 7 years ago, had this same kind of argument with their neighbors on the south, with the Dakotas, about their border there, saying that Mount Rushmore in North Dakota there belonged to Washington and not North Dakota, and eventually that was settled. But a lot of people still have strong opinions about that. Which side do you think you would go with on that issue?
I think they should just split everything in half. There's no reason to sue anybody over it. You know, they should be able to come to some kind of agreement.
Sure. Like with Mount Rushmore, they could give Washington and Jefferson's face to North Dakota, and give Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt would be controlled by Washington.
Yeah, it's still in the United States. It's not like it's going to another country.
Absolutely.
I think they should keep it right where it's at. You know, it's been that way for, as long as the country and the states have been admitted into the Union. There should be no reason to change it.
Right, and the North Dakotans seem to be ruffians and ne'er-do-wells anyway. They've been arguing for years about their eastern border with South Dakota and whether or not that Mount Rushmore should be included in North or South Dakota. And would you just stand behind keeping the borders where they are?
Exactly. They keep it right where it's at. I mean, it's all within the boundaries of the United States. It doesn't matter what state it's in. People are still going to come to see it. It's part of America.
We've traveled all over America many, many times, and we've traveled outside America to Russia and all over. This is the best place in the whole world. But North Dakota, I don't know, whatever your problem is, straighten it in the courts and stop going backwards. Go ahead. They're fighting old issues.
Well, and it's kind of like an old issue because you'll remember about 8 years ago, North Dakota had the same argument on their eastern border with South Dakota over whether Mount Rushmore is in North or South Dakota. Do you remember that?
Yes, and that's a beautiful place. We've been there 3 times. It is gorgeous.